Hello, my loves. Let's just give this a minute to make sure that this is on, that it's running. Okay, I see the numbers turning. That is a good sign. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to episode 6 of the Align and Allow series, the weekly, so to say, mini morning show for you where you are getting your weekly mini mindset shifts, coaching tips, and all information on doing less, achieving more, and doing so with absolute ease, being in that feminine flow, having that balance that you desire so that you actually have time to live your goddamn life, to be making a life, not just trying to make a living. Okay, so for today's episode, we are talking about the topic of how to incorporate the power of play to lock in your next level. All the work that we do together, all the things that we talk about in this Ambitious Women Creating Intentional Lives community is around how can you shift the way that you're working, shift the narratives around how you perceive success, how you perceive getting things done, productivity, all those things. And how can we shift into a new way of doing that? And play is a huge, huge way to do that. It's a really important tool. It's a really powerful strategy, a thing to actually incorporate into the strategy that you currently have for whatever next level goal it is that you are wanting to reach, whether that is writing a book, publishing a book, getting your business up and running, getting fully booked with clients, signing the first client, selling out your offer. If you are wanting to just be able to have a set time when you finish work throughout the day so that you can pick your kids up from school and really have intentional time with them in the evenings. If you want to be taking 3-day weekends or working a certain amount of hours a week, whatever your next level goal is, this is a huge piece of the strategy to start actually not just creating space for something fun or for creating space for yourself in your life, but incorporating the power of play is actually going to be a key factor for enabling you to achieve that next level goal. So that's what we're talking about today. If you are here live, hop on and say hello in the comments. Let me know where you are watching from today. Let me know something good that happened today, something that you're grateful for so far. Let's just start with the mindset shift right here and now. If you are catching the replay, please comment #replay. I love seeing you catch it later, and I love coming and hanging out with you, answering your comments, getting your takeaways, seeing how this has impacted you, answering your questions. So this is really a space for you to engage, for you to ask questions, for you to be and show up fully as yourself and get that support that you're looking for right now. So I love seeing you in the comments. Use them. As we always do, there are 3 main things that we are talking about today in this episode, as we do in every Align and Allow episode. And I'm going to break it down for you right now, and then we're going to zoom through all 3 of them in about 15 minutes, hopefully not anymore. As I say every time, I try to keep it short and sweet, but your girl loves to talk. So here are the 3 pieces, and at the end, you always get an aligned action, something that you can implement right away to actually start using these tips, these mindsets, these coaching tools right away in your life so that they're actually impacting you. I don't want to just be talking at you the whole time. I want you to be able to take something away from these episodes, that it was worth your 15 minutes. Of course, it's worth it anyways because we get to hang out together, but that you're actually moving forward with something. That's what coaching is all about. So the 3 things that we're talking about today. Number 1, how to incorporate the power of play to lock in your next level. We're starting with the importance of play and how it activates your highest creative potential as an adult. And we're going to be talking about why we as adults don't really play the way that we probably desire to. If you really were honest with yourself, and I know that this is true for me, I know it's true for my clients, if you are really honest with yourself, there's part of you that is wanting to do the fun things, right? Wanting to let that inner child just run free, run in the wilds, do somersaults through the field, all the things. Number 2, we're going to be talking about the power of play when it comes to healing and reconnecting with your inner child and why that's actually important for you in achieving your next level goal. And finally, number 3, how to incorporate more of this play in a practical way, and that's going to lead us right into your aligned action for this week. So let's dive in, starting with how the power of play activates your highest creative potential as an adult, and the reason why this actually enables you to lock in this next level goal. Again, we're not just talking about play as in the importance of it when it comes to balance or being able to have more time to do fun things. Yes, of course, that is kind of a secondary side effect here. We're talking about it in the sense of how it's actually a crucial factor in reaching that next level goal of yours that you have right now, okay? Let me know if that makes sense. That difference is really important. So when we incorporate play, what that allows us to do is really start to bring in this part of ourselves that for most of us, and really tune in and be vulnerable with yourself for a minute to see if this is true for you. This part of us that we've been suppressing. We have this common adult narrative in society that life has to be a struggle, that we need to be serious, that we have responsibilities and so we need to show up responsibly, that we have to constantly therefore be on or be doing things or being taking care of other people or other things in our lives. And what this really does is it crushes and squeezes the light out from inside of us, right? We don't have that carefree, childlike ability to just go, like I just said, run through the fields and like live your life and just have that lack of fear and that carefreeness around that. And this is not to say to like drop it all and throw it all away, not at all. But sometimes we lean way too much into feeling like we need to hold the burden of the world on our backs, right? And that's really this concept. And when we talk about masculine and feminine energies in the way that we're working and really balancing those out and finding your middle point, that sweet spot for you between the two, when you're feeling this way, when you've squeezed out all the fun, when you're carrying the burden of the world on your back, that's when you're really strongly in that masculine energy in the way that you're showing up, in the way that you're living. It's that feeling of I need to take care and I need to get it done and I need to be productive and there's no time for fun and there's only this strict structure and I need to follow it exactly how it is. And if I don't, then things are going to fall apart, etc., etc., etc. Cue the vicious cycle, right? So that's really the first thing that I want you to consider when we talk about bringing in play into our adult lives, that we have really been taught to squeeze away all of that play lightness because it doesn't equate to being a good, responsible adult. And just consider for a moment again if this is true for you, if that narrative rings true in your own life. The second piece that this does, so why this allows us to actually activate our highest creative potential as adults, is that when we give space for play, we allow our minds to shift away from pressure and into curiosity. So we are in very high pressure situations when we are trying to get the things done, wanting to reach that next level goal, following that strict plan. Oh my God, I need to get everything on this to-do list done, and then I still need to do all these other things over here, and it just feels so heavy, right? It just feels like, again, this burden that you're carrying. Maybe you don't see it that way. Maybe it doesn't necessarily feel like a burden, but it's just like, oh, there's just more to do. There's more to do, right? And so when we create this space for play, when you really incorporate it into your strategy and the way that you're living your life, you actually allow yourself to move out of the pressure system, this high pressure system, and into a place of curiosity. Okay, play is the highest form of research. And really shifting into that mindset for yourself right now, like being able to say, if I play, and if I give myself space for that, whether that's within the work that I'm doing right now or outside of that and just doing things for the sake of having fun, it is going to allow me to flow with more ease through my life. And it's also going to allow me to handle situations with more ease. Like just think about it. If you're high strung, high pressure, putting pressure on what you're doing, making it or creating the mindset that it needs to be perfect, then of course it's going to feel hard to move through it, right? It's going to feel like there's only one right answer and why is this one answer not working? If you're able to move into a space of play, you're opening up space for creativity. You're removing that pressure of it needing to be a certain way, tapping into that highest creative potential that is already inside of you, giving it space to express itself, and therefore opening up the doors for different opportunities or different solutions to come through to you. And the way that you're going to be able to handle those situations then is going to feel a lot easier, even if the situations aren't necessarily easier in and of themselves. That's not the point. We can't control those things externally outside of us, but to be able to say, okay, can't control this right now. How am I going to flow through this? How am I going to regulate my emotional state right now to make this as easeful as possible, even if it's not an easy situation? Let me know if that makes sense. So what I really want to wrap this first point up with is for us to just address the belief that you are worthy and deserving of creating this play and creating this rest. And not only tapping into the mindset shift around the fact that, yes, when I do this, when I incorporate play into my strategy, I give myself space to tap into this highest creative potential for me, which benefits myself on an emotional and physical and mental level, but it also benefits my next level goal. It benefits the ideas that can come through and the creative possibilities, right? But really then having this secondary shift right now, let's do this together. And for you to just take a moment and say, follow my lead, say this to yourself, I am worthy and deserving of resting. I'm allowed to have space for non-productive things. Creating this space to play is actually incredibly productive and important. And really tapping into that feeling of that being true for you. And maybe it doesn't feel 1000% true yet, but keep coming back to it. And the more you incorporate this and the more you lean into this mindset, the more true it's going to start to feel and the easier it's going to become, okay? That's point number one. Point number two, how to incorporate the power of play to lock in your next level goal. And what we're gonna focus on right now is the healing piece and the reconnecting piece with your inner child. So basically, why that is so important so that you can lock in your next level goal, okay? So when we talk about playing and playfulness, and we talk about the fact that that is something that quote unquote children do, right? Like we as adults, we're not meant to play. We don't pull out the toys anymore. We don't, sit on our own and do crafts or arts and crafts that aren't somehow meaningful, or we're trying to like improve or, reach a next level goal to some extent. Like there's always a lot of layers attached to it when we tend to do those things as adults. Nothing necessarily wrong with that, but we want to bring in more of that playful piece of that, okay? So when we talk about reconnecting with play, what that really means is reconnecting with the inner child. And if you think back to your childhood, what tends to happen, or what actually happens when we talk about the subconscious mind and how we internalize belief systems and emotional routines and our perceived reality, is so much of that we internalize between the ages of 0 from when we were born until about 7 years old. And so all those things that happen while you were a kid, all the things that you see happen in your family, all the things that you were told, all the things that maybe friends said to you or teachers said to you, or the way that you saw relationships work, we're internalizing all of those things and we're creating our perceived reality of how the world works and what you need to do to be safe and what you need to do to get love and attention and have security and what you need to do in order to, achieve something, or what happens if you achieve something. Do you get praise? Do you get validation? Do you not get that if you're not achieving things? And we start to create this criteria system within our own minds, again, from parents, from society, from teachers, from friends, etc., around how we need to be showing up. And what also comes along with that are things that trigger us, things that get us irritated or make us upset. And as adults, we still internalize those triggers. Unless you've really done the work to release them and address them, those things are coming up on a day-to-day basis as well. And there might be that moment that you feel within yourself where you're like, ooh, yeah, that triggered me. Like I didn't like the way that woman just looked at me, or how she yelled at me because I didn't finish that piece of work on time, or how that lady totally cut me off in the road. Like, what a bitch. Like, what are the things that are coming up and how are things triggering you? And the reason we want to talk about these triggers, and we're talking about it in relation to, those first 7 years of your life, is because as kids, we want to throw the temper tantrums, right? If you think about being a kid, like you had no problem telling someone when you were upset. Like you would sit down and cry because you didn't get the attention that you needed, or you were hungry, or you needed a nap, like whatever it was, you let it out. And again, as adults, we tend to suppress those things. And that's not to say that I want you to give yourself permission to like scream in the middle of the grocery store. Probably not the best idea, but to really acknowledge when those things are coming up and really give it space for yourself to ask your inner child, what is it that you need right now? Do you need to be seen? Do you need to be heard? Do you need validation for something? How can I give you what it is that you feel like you're lacking right now based on the subconscious belief system that is being triggered? Let me know if that makes sense. So these are all things that can, like I said, still trigger us today if we haven't healed them. And so really using play, and it doesn't need to literally be like playing with things, but using play to connect with your inner child. And that could be something as simple as using a one phrase sentence of, what does my inner child need from me today? If you had a nickname as a child, if you have a picture of yourself as a child, if you have a toy or a stuffed animal still that you loved at that particular age as a child, like from 0 to 7, that you can speak to or apply this phrase to. I know one of the nicknames that I had was Livy Love. So saying that to myself, like, hey, Livy Love, like, what do you need from yourself today? Like, what is it that I can give you, so that we can tap in more to that childlike nurturing side, so that we can show up better in the world, so that we can step into that next level goal feeling really good, feeling really secure, feeling really taken care of. And of course, that pairs really well with actually doing the things that you love to do as a kid. And sometimes that might literally be it. Like, if you're feeling triggered with the work that's in front of you right now, you're starting to procrastinate, you're starting to avoid, you're starting to get irritated because you're not being productive. Those are all things that come up a lot for my clients. How can you use that as an opportunity to tap in with your inner child and ask her or him or them what they need? How can you give that to them? And maybe that literally does mean taking an aligned action and doing something playful that your inner child would have loved to do at that age of 5 or 6 years old, or whatever that might be for you. Maybe it's going outside and like running around in a field, or packing some snacks and taking your book and sitting by the lake, or calling up an old friend and telling stories. Like, what is it that your inner child is asking you for, and how can you give that to it? Again, if we don't start this dialogue, it's going to be and feel really difficult to actually get that guidance and that information for how you want to be moving forward with your aligned actions. Let me know if that makes sense. Okay, perfect. Okay, number 3. So this one is the practical step. Actually, how you can start incorporating this play in a practical way, so that, again, when you're incorporating the power of play, it enables you and supports you in achieving your next level goal, because that's what we're all about here, doing that in a way that feels freaking good. So the first thing that I want us to talk about is a mindset shift around releasing judgment. When we talk about play as adults, one of the biggest things that prevents us from wanting to lean into it is this image that we've created of ourselves and the way that other people perceive us. And of course, that is a survival mechanism that is deeply ingrained in the way that we understand life and move through society. We want to be accepted. We want to be included in the community. If we weren't included in the community, then that meant death hundreds and thousands of years ago. So of course we want that. But how can we still create this safe space for ourselves so that we can release judgment of ourselves, release the fear of looking silly, and be able to lean into those playful pieces of ourselves, playful things that would actually really give us that sense of fulfillment, that inner childlike joy and enthusiasm. So again, starting with that mindset shift, when you're leaning into it, if it feels a little sticky, that's okay. Without needing to change it or do anything about it, or, go into, oh, this doesn't feel good, I'm going to avoid this. Just acknowledge that that's coming up right now and know that it's completely normal. And again, it would probably be a little bit weird if it didn't feel even like a little bit sticky, like, doing jumping jacks in the middle of like your office and, throwing around those fun little twirly, I don't even know what they were called, but I don't know if you even know what I'm talking about. It's like, they were like little wands and they just had like the beautiful little strings on the end and you felt like a fairy. That's just what came to mind. If you did that in the middle of your office in the like midday when everyone's like on calls and very serious, they might be like, what is up with this girl? So just kind of being in that mindset of leaning into that, knowing that this is just a part of me that needs to be expressed, and it doesn't need to be expressed in front of thousands of people, but still being able to be silly. And are there certain people who you can be silly with, or certain places that feel safe so that you can start leaning into that, okay? So that's the first mindset to really lay the foundation for this. In terms of a practical aligned action step on top of that mindset is to really start your day by asking your inner child how you can make space for them today. What fun activities did you love doing as a kid, and how can you bring in some of those or more of those today, this week, this month? That's the first aligned action. The second one is to give yourself space to daydream. I absolutely love this one because it's something really simple that you can just give yourself space for. It helps with the strategy of resting, incorporating rest as a strategy where you sit down and you don't intentionally do anything. You're not checking your Instagram or quickly looking at emails or feeling like you need to be reading a book or listening to a podcast. Like, can you really just sit and be and allow yourself to stare out the window or into like a blank space in your room and just see what comes up? Daydream. Let the visualizations, the dreams, the desires, the goals, let them come up and let it feel really fun. Like, how can you make this like a beautiful mind playground for yourself? Okay. The thing about daydreaming is that when we start to daydream, we start to visualize things, right? And we're actually, during daydreaming, putting ourselves into a trance state. So when we talk about trance states as it relates to hypnosis, in hypnotherapy, we want to put our clients, or I put my clients, into a trance state so that we can open up the connection to the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is 95% of our brains, so they are the powerhouse behind actually creating the things that we want to create. They hold our habits, our mindsets, our beliefs, the way that we understand the world. And so when we can really give ourselves space to sink into the subconscious mind and visualize and dream from there, the effect that has on our ability to take action or identify our next steps or gain clarity, it's like doubling and amplifying tenfold, okay? So daydreaming leads to visualization. Visualization leads to manifestation, right? We're visualizing what it is that we want. We're tapping into the feelings of it feeling real. And that's essentially the equation for manifestation, right? We can definitely talk more about that as well if you have any questions relating to that. So that's your aligned action step number 2. The third aligned action step that I'm going to give you, and then we're going to wrap up for today. If this was really speaking to you and you are wanting to do less, you're wanting to incorporate more of this playfulness and this play piece into your strategy of how you're working, you have really been recognizing that you're strongly in that masculine energy, whether that's in the form of overworking, of feeling like you're just struggling against time, you're racing against time, you're starting to feel burnt out, drained, exhausted, overwhelmed in general, you don't have enough time for life outside of work, or you're just feeling really confined by this strict structure, and you know that you can do less. You know that there's a better way to be working. It doesn't have to be this dominant narrative. So if that's really speaking to you and you're ready to shift that, I have 3 more Feminine Flow blueprint calls available. These are free calls that I'm doing at the end of August to really celebrate this Leo season of stepping into your light, stepping into yourself as the main character in your life. Play is also a huge aspect of Leo season. It's tapping into that inner child, that joy, that enthusiasm, all the things that we've been talking about today. So that's why those calls, that's why I've decided to offer those calls. I have 3 of them left. 2 have already been taken. They haven't even been out for a week yet. So if that is something that's speaking to you, you're wanting to move out of that masculine energy into the feminine flow, create your actual blueprint for doing that, have that clear strategy so that you're not in this heavy masculine focused strategy, but instead allowing yourself to find that balance and flow in how you're working, that you can have your rest and your play as a crucial part of your strategy. I've dropped the link for you to book in one of those 3 remaining free calls in the description of this video. If you have any questions about that, of course, please feel free to reach out to me. That's oftentimes what happens. You want to kind of get the lay of the land first, dip your toe in the water, feel out the vibe so that it feels safe. These calls are really for you to create your feminine flow blueprint. So there's 0 pressure. This is something that I'm wanting to gift to you. So that is all from me. That was your Align and Allow episode 6, how to incorporate the power of play to lock in your next level. Leave your questions in the comments. If you have any takeaways, I would love to hear about them. And if you have any specific themes or topics that you would like me to do in one of these series, in one of these episodes, drop them in the comments as well. These are for you. This is for you to get the information that you need or the hot seat coaching to start to create momentum towards your next level goal. So I hope you have such a lovely rest of your Wednesday, great rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon.